Hi, my name is Dylan Woods, and for the last 10 years I've worked with many hospitals and hospices all over North America, helping them train doctors, nurses, social workers, caregivers, volunteers, administrators, chaplains, a whole wide variety of people who all sought to do one thing, which was improve their communication with someone who is seriously ill. Because pills are working to keep people alive longer and longer, this is creating other problems that we're still trying to identify and deal with. When we talk about senior citizens and retirement residences and nursing homes and hospitals, opinions can be very intense. I did a lot of research online looking at articles and comments on these articles all over the internet and found some really interesting comments. Doug from BC says, humane levels of care are essential. No one should be warehoused like a commodity during their elderly years. Subsidized elder care homes should be a last resort. Families should care for their own, or at least be willing to help pay for that care. Marty says, unfortunately, the standards in long-term care facilities are not being monitored properly. I agree that undercover investigations should be conducted regularly. Mike in Canada says, children might want to consider taking care of their elderly parents themselves. What is not discussed here is that people are simply living too long. It's horrible to watch people fade away strapped to chairs. We are kinder to our pets. Mr. Den says, our convicted felons get better treatment. I don't get it. Today, many hospitals all over the US and Canada are full to capacity. What this means is that when someone is seriously ill and they go to the hospital, sometimes they end up just lying on a stretcher in a hallway because there are no rooms for them, but they're dying, so they have to go somewhere. And, you know, dying on a stretcher in a hallway just seems like we could do better, frankly. And, you know, in retirement residences, because everything is so full, retirement residences, some of them are turning into hospices where people are dying, and the staff really isn't trained on how to be there for people who are dying, and they don't know the most basic things of what to do. And so training becomes really important, because when we don't train people, it increases the suffering, it increases the anxiety, it increases the guilt. So this video was made to help lessen or help raise awareness of the emotional, spiritual, and psychological effects of modern medicine. Here's a testimony of a lady who I met who recently lost her mother and what she went through in that process.
My name's Janice Morgan. I'm a resident of Newmarket. I've lived here with my husband and 3 children for 25 years. We brought my mother up from Toronto. My mom tried to live on her own in a condo, and it wasn't working. And then her health, she was diagnosed with cancer. So the thing was, is we wanted to get her up here. We wanted to get her close to us, where the hospital was close, where she could have some independence. And she managed the chemo for the ovarian cancer for approximately 3 years. Labor Day of this year, she fell and broke her hip, and that sort of sent things into a downward spiral. We ended up in the hospital for a month, brought her back here just to find out about a week later that the chemo wasn't working any longer, and she was refusing any more treatment. The cancer had spread to her lungs, and it was growing in her abdomen, and we were at that point faced with all kinds of issues with care. Home care was brought in. Not enough as far as I'm concerned. She dealt with it not badly, and it became increasingly, I guess we got the diagnosis of the fact that the cancer couldn't be treated any longer on October the 16th, and she passed away November the 8th, so we had 4 weeks of absolute hell. It was gut-wrenching to watch her. She didn't want to be alone. I was getting to the point where I was physically sick because I was running, 24/7 to try and be with her as much as I could. working full-time and trying to maintain a family at home as well. Home care, were doing the best they could. I do feel that the system did fail her. I don't think anybody was really listening to us. She didn't want to be by herself. I had such horrible guilt being at home and not being able to spend 24 hours a day with her. Her medication, when they sent her out of the hospital, it was all out of whack. We didn't know what she was on, what for. They shouldn't have to go through this. I mean, her final days were spent, to me, worse than they should have been. She got admitted to the hospital on the Wednesday because she was dehydrated, but she wasn't capable of even getting up to get fluid on her own. So they took her in the hospital, they hydrated her, and they sent her back. And we knew as a family that she shouldn't have been back here. She got up that night and fell during the night. We got her back in the hospital on the Friday morning. We had calls into home care, we had calls into everybody and their brother to try and figure out how to get her either a palliative bed or some care that she wouldn't be by herself. Again, somebody recognizing that she needed help and she didn't need to be alone. We finally sent her back by ambulance on Friday and she died on Saturday. It's very frustrating. Most upsetting for me was the fact that we were fighting. We were fighting with everyone to try and get her proper care. And I felt that because we couldn't afford private funding, that we were being turned away. I really did. It was gut-wrenching for us to have to think of her alone for even an hour or two. It was exhausting. There's got to be something better. There's volunteers at the hospital right, left, and center. Why can't there be some kind of a system put in place for seniors? There aren't enough palliative care beds. There's got to be some kind of a bridge where there's help.
Janice is right. We need more help. We need more volunteers. If you've never volunteered, would you please consider volunteering in your local area? There are many hospices and hospitals and nursing homes and retirement residences that really could use a volunteer 3 or 4 hours a month. Even 3 or 4 hours a month would be meaningful to some of these places. So please consider volunteering. Here's a testimony from a couple of people who I know who have had a very rewarding experience volunteering. And here's their story.
So what was that like?
It was very, very nice. It was comforting to be able to comfort, you know.
How was the dog accepted?
Fine. You could tell those that were dog people and those that weren't, and it's fine, and whatever. I just kind of read the situation.
The first time volunteering touched my life was with my great aunt. She was older, she's my grandmother's sister, and I grew up with her. She didn't live too far from me, so go visit her on the weekends. And as she got older, she wasn't able to do a lot of things, so you know, she lost her eyesight wasn't too good, so she couldn't read as much. So we'd read books to her or play games with her all the time. She wasn't able to leave her home very much, so I had to think of a lot of activities to do there. And I really enjoyed my time spent with her. And it was just, I love listening to the stories from her from the past, and then going in to visit, you know, with my grandmother and my other great aunts who lived in homes. I realized, you know, this is something I would love to do. And unfortunately, she passed away a little while ago. And I'd spent all my weekends and all my free time with her, and just, you know, spending time with her, whether it be playing games, reading, talking with her. And once she passed, I had all this extra time, and I realized how much I missed not only her, but the time spent and everything we did together. And that's when I thought of, you know, maybe I could come into the home and volunteer.